The Accord is really going somewhere interesting. You know, in the last few days, we've had two Scottish colleges sign up. We've had universities in Finland, New Zealand, um, and Cardiff sign up. And these are the vice chancellors, presidents signing. And we're really, really excited to see presidents of student unions co-signing with the vice chancellor or the president. So interesting stuff. And we only heard yesterday that our approach to the United Nations high-level political forum, where the world's governments meet to review our SDG progress, that we'll be running a session, a big session in that, where we'll be looking at the learning that the world's education sector has got so far on how are we implementing these SDGs. Have to be at the heart of the SDGs with our research, our teaching on our campuses. So it's really is exciting. It's gaining traction. So there was so much interest in this engagement webinar that we've actually split it with so many people wanting to contribute and listen to how do we engage students, but then and colleagues, but then we'll deal with separately later. How do we engage with our leaders, with our senior management team, our executives, our governors? That's a really key one. And what's going to be critical for them will be reporting, and you'll be getting an email from Rosie later today on what the reporting on the SDG Accord is going to look like. And it's really inclusive. There's no right or wrong answers. It's where you're at. That's where we're all starting. But the reporting will be trying to capture the learning that we're all getting. So we've got three speakers today. I'm really grateful to them. So we've got the National Union of Students, we've got the Social Impact Team at University of Leicester, and we've got the European Students' Union. So really delighted to have a national and international flavour, and a union flavour, and a student flavour, and a university flavour. So we're going to kick off straight away with Rachel Drayson. Rachel is the Insight Manager of Sustainability at the National Union of Students. Rachel will be talking about the student perspective on the SDGs using information NUS have collected and collated in their monthly student opinion surveys. So Rachel, if you're there, over to you for a few minutes.
Great, thanks Ian. I'll just share my screen and start the presentation. I'm going to talk through some research that we've been doing since October last year from our student opinion survey, which we complete monthly to canvass the views of students on topical issues. And we're doing one of the goals each month up to the full 17. So far we've done 1 to 6, and I just should be getting the data back from goal 7 anytime now, so we'll update the resources with that. The surveys are distributed through our database of NUS extra card holders, and they are incentivized. And each month we get about between 1,000 and 2,000 responses. And the idea from this research was just really to develop a resource for people working on the goals as an overarching concept, but also to provide some information on how students are thinking and acting in relation to each of the individual goals as well. So yeah, I'm just going to talk through some of the findings that we've gathered so far. So the first few questions are looking at the goals as a whole. So we asked a question to gauge awareness of the goals, and before completing the surveys, around 2/3 of respondents hadn't heard of the goals. So yeah, you can see that only kind of just over a quarter say that they had heard of the Sustainable Development Goals. However, once we provided an explanation of what they are and what they're trying to achieve, there's really high support for action and involvement with the goals. So you can see there's really strong demand for universities to be taking action on the SDGs. So 76% agree that universities should be actively leading and supporting the achievement of the goals. And almost 2/3 of students would like to learn more about the goals. There's also willingness to be involved in their achievement, and also recognising that students should provide a critical perspective on the goals as well. So 62% agreeing with that statement, that students should be involved in critiquing and influencing how the goals are achieved, as well as just kind of learning about the issues associated with them. There's kind of two sides to the kind of involvement. So from a perspective of ESD and the kind of the more formal curriculum, like 54% say that the issues covered by the SDGs should be incorporated and embedded into university and college courses. And half of our respondents said that they would be like to be involved in action that helps to achieve the goals as well. So each month we've been running a tracker question that gauges opinion towards the kind of issues linked to the goals. So these the wording of the issues doesn't coincide precisely with the goals, but covers the issues that the goals are aiming to address. And we ask for student opinion on which are the most important issues that are facing both the UK today and also the world as a whole. As you can see from this graph, this is showing the UK data, and the three kind of issues that are of most concern are inequality in terms of income or discrimination, a lack of healthcare services, and government accountability and transparency / corruption, a lack of opportunity and employment. Economic opportunity employment is also a key concern. If you look at the climate change section of this chart, you'll see there's quite a large spike that happened in January 2018, and we think that is due to the Blue Planet programme. So as you can see, there's quite a huge jump between the previous responses, and sadly it drops off again afterwards, but the field work for this coincided with the edition of that series that highlighted the issues of climate change and ocean plastics and things like that. As you'll see from the next chart, there's also a spike in concern about biodiversity. So maybe the solution to kind of engaging people with this is just to show Blue Planet on a constant loop. But maybe something for the BBC there. So yeah, these are the kind of the rest of that chart. A bit muddled if I squished it all onto one slide. So these are the kind of less important issues. So down towards the bottom end of the chart are things like conflict and wars, infrastructure and food security. As I mentioned just now, you can see that spike in the destruction of nature and biodiversity loss category as well. So we look at the same question, but asking students to consider these issues on a global scale. You can see that climate change is the most important issue for students on a global scale, followed by issues like poverty and large-scale conflict and wars. You can see those spikes that I mentioned from the UK perspective are also reflected in global concerns in terms of climate change and destruction of nature and biodiversity. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the data that comes back this month and certainly next month as well around concern about conflict and wars, given the situation in Syria at the moment. So on a global scale, the issues ranked as of less importance are kind of lack of infrastructure, aging populations, and loss of privacy due to technology, although again that may be something to look out for as we get the next couple of months' data back. So in one of the surveys that we've run, we also included a ranking of the goals directly. And as you can see, this kind of reflects the global concerns in in the previous slide. So climate change action is seen as the most important goal, followed by no poverty, and then quality education and clean water and sanitation receiving the same score. So as I mentioned, we've been focusing on each of the goals individually. So just the next couple of slides present some of the information that we've got back about each goal. So in terms of goal 1, no poverty, 86% say they're concerned about world poverty, and 49% say that they contribute financially to charities and appeals to support those in poverty. In terms of zero hunger, so I'm just going to have to move the video box so I can actually see what that says on my screen. 10% say that they've gone without eating for a whole day due to a lack of money or other resources. This question actually uses a indicator that was developed by the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization to measure food poverty. Yeah, we've been doing some other research here at NUS on food poverty amongst students, as it's not an area that's been researched in the UK as yet. In terms of actions that they do to achieve this goal, 71% say that they personally reduce food waste as a way to support sustainable food production. In terms of good health and well-being, 17% have reported that their personal mental health is bad or very bad, and 23% say that they drink more than a bottle of half of wine or 5 pints of lager a year. They're over the NHS recommended weekly amounts. In terms of quality education, 60% say that they've faced financial barriers to accessing learning opportunities, and 40% say that on reflecting on the educational experiences they've had so far, work placements and volunteering, they feel have provided them with the best learning experience. In terms of goal 5, on gender equality, 91% say that more needs to be done to ensure women and men are equal, and 28% say that they know that they've been discriminated against because of their gender. In terms of clean water and sanitation, 51% say that they don't really know how much water is needed to make the products they buy, but 25% say that they use eco-friendly cleaning products as a way of them personally taking action on this goal. So that was a brief snapshot of some of the data that we've been getting back, and you can find the full report online at this address. And also, if you have any questions about the research, here's my email address. And if anyone has any suggestions on any kind of particular aspects of goals that they would be interested in finding out about, it'd be really interesting to hear your thoughts on how we can develop this research as well.
Thanks for that, Rachel. So I think we're moving on to Charlotte and Hannah from University of Leicester. If you're there and you guys want to share your screen, I know you've got a presentation.
Hello, hi. So hi, I'm Hannah. I'm Charlotte. We're from the social impact team at the University of Leicester. This year our strategy has been rewritten and it feeds directly into the Sustainable Development Goals. So the focus of our staff and students events are to promote the goals and raise awareness. For the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to talk to you about some of the engagement activities and events that we have developed for the SDGs, and hopefully this might give you a bit of inspiration that you can take back to your own organisations for your own events.
So to get engaged with the SDGs, students need to have an understanding of what they are. So we held regular stalls in our student union where we turned the SDGs into an interactive game that we made ourselves. As you can see from the picture, students were encouraged to throw balls through the SDG footprints, and each footprint represented a step in the right direction to achieve a more sustainable planet. Whichever footprint the ball landed in would be the topic of discussion for the relevant goal. We found this was a really quick way to introduce the goals to the students. As it was a game, they didn't need any prior knowledge, and that took away the intimidation factor that some schools can have. And it was also a quick activity to engage between lectures. And the event was planned to coincide with the UN's birthday, as shown in the social media post on the screen.
We found that Facebook and Instagram are an especially effective way to increase awareness and engage with our students. We can generate and schedule lots of posts quickly, and as the student stereotype suggests, they spend a lot of time on the phone, so it's an easy way to get their attention. This slide just shows a couple of examples of the posts that we've used to integrate SDGs into everyday life. For example, for Doctor Who Day, we use it as an opportunity to promote goal number 9 and encourage discussion about innovation within the university.
We've also encouraged a Thoughtful Thursday, posting inspirational quotes about the goals. We're very aware as students it's easy to get wrapped up in that university bubble, so this is a simple way of creating that connection with the goals and hopefully inspiring change. We also want our team to feel real to students and not just sat in the background of the university somewhere. So posting regular updates of how our own office connects the goals has worked really well. For example, the SDG cakes helps get rid of that student university staff barrier.
We created an SDG themed social media advent calendar, and this was offered as a student volunteer opportunity and received a lot of engagement with the students, as they liked the fact that they could relate to the SDGs their own Christmas festivities.
Pictures of 12 days of SDGs, each day included a Christmas pun linked to a specific goal and a task or activity to encourage a more sustainable Christmas. For example, goal 2, last Christmas I gave you my leftovers, had links to recipes to use up your food left over from Christmas dinner. Also, goal 15, rocking around the Christmas tree, included a lifestyle change of swapping to a different search engine, Scotia, which plants a tree for every search made.
At Christmas, we held a big event called A Very Savvy Christmas, and this was to introduce the SDGs as a whole to staff and students. We tried around the idea of having an SDG wall, which you can see in the top left, and we wanted people to interact with it. So we got each goal attached into an envelope, got people to write down their ideas on how the goals can be achieved, either by themselves or by the university, and place them in their respective envelopes. And in exchange, they could have a free refreshment for their ideas. We supplemented this with other fun Christmas-themed activities, for example, pine cone decorations. These were to encourage a more do-it-yourself Christmas and move away from the mass use of single-use plastics at Christmas time, like hanging on Christmas trees. So this highlighted goal 12 and 14.
So for Graduate Week this year, we made the SDGs our theme, with the aim to create as big an impact on campus as possible. The image that you can see on your screens is the calendar of events and activities we held for the week. This went out to all students, and we also made a staff focusing calendar. Monday and Friday's activities were to promote all the goals, whereas the rest of the days were student-led days based on specific goals that were relevant to their own interests. As you can see, there was a range of activities offered, and we also offered evening activities as well.
For Tuesday's event, we contributed towards creating an edible campus. The volunteers planted herbs and raspberry climbers in outdoor planters in the middle of campus. And this was to promote sustainable food and biodiversity on campus. The students and staff learned how to bed beds properly and discovered many useful properties that herbs have, and have created signs for the planters.
Wednesday, one of the students was a keen cyclist and wanted to run an event around that. Instead of the obvious choice of focusing on goal 3, health and well-being, the student chose to use bikes to raise awareness of goal 7, clean and affordable energy. We brought in pedal power bike generators, including an energy bike and a bubble bike, which were fan favourites with staff and students.
On the Thursday, we had a close swap This was to encourage a move away from the mass production of the fashion industry and an easy way to grab a bargain. So staff and students were encouraged to bring in their unwanted clothes to be able to trade in for brand new ones. And this was a student-led project that was really well received by the staff and students, and we will be repeating this event in the future. And for each staff and student-led day, the specific icons were included in the marketing promotions. As you can see, this is a student poster that was made for the clothes swap, and in the top left corner, the goal number 12 is advertised to show the connection.
So the goals are bright and exciting, and we wanted our events to also be bright and exciting. What better way to do that than to involve lots of shiny freebies and glitter? So we decided we would run a sustainable tombola. To earn a ticket, all staff and students had to do was to engage in a conversation with us about the goals. We found this worked really well, and due to the nature of a tombola, people just kept coming back, creating opportunity for better and more in-depth discussions about the goals. The prizes were all items to encourage a more sustainable way of living. So we had the typical sustainable items, such as flasks, reusable sandwich wraps, and bamboo straws. But we also got more unconventional items that people might not have heard of, such as crystal deodorant, recycled toilet paper, and recycled crushed stone notebooks. We found that even for those that didn't win, we'd provided that inspiration to go out and make the sustainable change in their lives.
Glitter has received a lot of attention recently for increasing the amount of microplastics in our oceans. We sourced biodegradable glitter and set up a glitter station on campus just to show that being sustainable doesn't have to be boring. And this was one of the most popular events of the week, and we'll be running it again during the summer for our festival event.
So this is our SDG wall. So we wanted a way for people to actually engage with the goals, not just to be talked about. We wanted people to think about and interact how the goals fit into their lives. But to do this, we needed a big visual. We had the wall right in the middle of campus, so everyone walking past would see it. The goals graphic is already very bright and colourful, doing a lot of the work for us, so staff and students were easily drawn to it.
To get that engagement, we asked staff and students to write in a post-it note how the goals related to their own lives and how they could achieve it through working collaboratively with their peers. And we found that this worked much better than the wall that we did at Christmas, with over triple the amount of people engaging. And one reason we think this is the case is because people could see each other's ideas, so they could bounce off them for their own inspiration.
So as you can see from the pictures, for this event we were getting students to choose a goal, or several, dip their hand in the relevant colour paint, and then print their hand onto some large canvases. This was a really creative way to get the students engaged with the goals, and we do tend to find that engaging with the students in their child works really well. So we bring this activity out at a lot of our events, and the eventual aim is to end up hanging the canvases in our student union so that everyone can see and be part of supporting the global goals.
It's a well-known fact that students love a good freebie, so we wanted something fun to spread the SDG message, and we created these globe stress balls. The tagline, "How do you envision your world?" This was created and chosen and voted for by our students, and we included other elements like the SDG wheel logo and our team name. The students loved them, and so did the staff. And this is just a good way to remind the staff and students the events that they took part in, and also, of course, the SDGs.
Yeah, so I hope that in these 10 minutes we've given you some inspiration and some ideas of how to engage your staff and students with the goals. We basically went big, bright and bold with the aim of creating slightly different marketing events, catch the attention and encourage those important interactions with staff and students. So if you have any questions, just send us a message or email us or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte and Hannah. You two are a whirlwind, a tour de force. Very impressive, very inspiring. Thank you. People will leave questions to the end after our third speaker, but do please make a note of them. Really encouraging, you two. And our final presenter is Katrina Koppel from the European Student Union. So let's have a European-wide insight into how students and others are being engaged in the goals. So Katrina, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Greetings from Bratislava. I do hope my connection will hold up. So yeah, let's get started. I will be talking to you about some of the work that ESU, or the European Students' Union, and the European students overall have been doing in regard to the SDGs. So in brief, first of all, because I have no illusions in the sense that everyone in the world knows what ESU, or the European Students' Union, is, I'll talk briefly about what we even are and what we do. I'll talk about what ESU, both in a sense of us as an organization and our members, do in regard to sustainability. And in the end, I'll talk briefly about the future we envision going on in regards to the SDGs and the SDG Accord, in fact. So to start off, ESU isn't really an organization that focuses on sustainability as sort of something, a daily thing we think about as far as the SDGs go. However, much, if not all, of the work we do is in fact closely related to sustainability. So this is something, well, I'll be talking about various aspects of our work, such as advocacy and the policies we stand for on a European level. We deeply try to connect all of our policies to various aspects of sustainability and the goals that we have to fulfill by 2030 as a globe. I've already said before that ESU stands for the European Students' Union. Overall, our definition of what Europe is or is not is quite broad. We have 46 members from 39 countries, and these include, for example, Armenia and Israel. So we don't only go by, for example, European Union or Council of Europe, or even the European Education Area. We go quite much further, and we accept European student unions who see themselves globally as European and have the same goals as we do. Historically, we've been here for quite a few years now, since 1982, but we haven't always been under the same name. So we started off as the European Students' Information Bureau, and in fact, we still retain quite a lot of that function, as sort of we pass on the information we have about various aspects of education across Europe to our members, and try to get them to engage with various aspects of higher education and within that sustainability. So getting a bit more specific, we've been looking at sustainability as a part of our work for years. It has a permanent spot in our strategic priorities and our plan of work. And in fact, we used to have a working group. These working groups are something that our members occasionally call for very specific topics. And this working group for sustainability was in fact called for by NUS UK, our fellow presenter and SDG Accord endorsing partner. So greetings to the UK. And in fact, sustainability is a large part of our internationalization efforts. So for example, when we talk about mobility, study mobility in Europe, going from one country to another, that mobility also has a large factor of sustainability, even looking, for example, at balance in mobility. When we look at countries from where a lot of students come from, but to where not a lot of students go, then that mobility must be seen within the aspect of sustainability, because a constant imbalance in incoming and outgoing students does not create the sustainable higher education system. So we also, in the aspect of the quality education goal, need to see different aspects of our work as having the end of being sustainable for the future. This is, for example, a huge problem in Moldova and Bulgaria, where a lot of the students do engage in mobility in the sense that they leave the country to engage in higher education in other countries, but then they do not return. And on the reverse side, many students do not go to Moldova or Bulgaria to get their higher education. which creates a very unsustainable higher education system overall, both in regards to quality, to funding, to accessibility, etc. So other aspects we do look with sustainability is quality assurance. I will talk about the quality aspect of SDGs shortly. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I have some computer problems. And for example, the Bergen Declaration, which I encourage you all to read after the presentation. I'm assuming you will be sent the slides. It is a sort of a commitment that European European Students' Union and Global Students' Union, in fact, made in 2016. And this includes, for example, looking at global change, climate change as a factor for education, because in several countries already, some higher education institutions have had to be closed, in fact, because the environment around that has become unsustainable. For example, as far as deforestation goes, or rising sea levels. On the whole, our members work towards the same values as us. A major thing of which other country you look at is students are advocating for sustainable funding for education. This largely means that a sustainable funded education system cannot solely rely on students paying their way through the higher education system. It needs to be seen as a public good to be sustainable. But of course, and I hope you can see my mouse here, this little box, the red box on the right-hand side, is a major aspect of our work. But I do invite all of you to here attending this webinar to consider how you in your work might engage the student unions who already do a lot of work that aligns with sustainable development goals, to actually engage them better. So briefly to conclude about the future, from Bratislava, where I'm currently actually, I will be heading to Slovenia, where we'll be having our next General Assembly, and a part of that General Assembly will be the formation of the ESU Sustainability Network, which will be an informal network. One of the goals, of course, will be to get our members to see the work they do themselves as something related to sustainability and sustainable development goals. Hopefully, we will get most of our members to also sign the accord and perhaps start endorsing it to their own member unions across the countries, which, in my view, and I've said this previously, student unions already do a lot of work that, in essence, is work towards sustainable development goals. The important thing we need to achieve is to have those unions see the work they do as working towards sustainability, because a lot of the things they already do, campaigning for various things such as sustainable funding and quality, already is that work. They just don't sort of see it that way quite yet. Hopefully, we can change that in the near future. So if you have any questions to me after this presentation, my email address is on the screen, where you can find me. And thank you.
Katrina, thank you. Really interesting. So, folks, it's time for us, or for you. So any thoughts, questions, challenges, clarifications, please do. You can either, I'm assuming, unmute yourself. Is that right, Rosie? And just jump in. The water is lovely. Or use the chat box, as Rosie was saying. And then Rosie will convey those. So while you're thinking, and please do jump in, Hannah and Charlotte, tell us about your job. I mean, by the way, your sound, for me anyway, isn't very clear. So if you could speak really clearly and maybe a bit loud into the microphone. Social impact team, where's that come from? You know, where do you fit into the university?
So, originally we were the environment team, and then because we've rewritten our strategy, we rebranded ourselves to be the social impact, because a lot of what we were doing, just calling us the environment team, didn't feel adequate at all. So we rebranded to the social impact, and now our remit really does cover an awful lot of stuff. So my job personally is all about student engagement, which is where all these examples have come from. Whereas Hannah's is slightly different. Yeah, my actual role is Living Labs coordinator, so I'm working along with the Living Labs approach, which, if you don't know, is an opportunity for different stakeholders of the university, so students, academic staff, professional staff, and external actors, to work collaboratively on research projects about real-life sustainability issues. So that's really what my job's about.
Wow. So one more from me. Does this mean you've sort of dropped the environmental dimension, having gone into social impact?
No, definitely not. We've just found that going at students with environment blazoned everywhere, they just tend to switch off. There are so many other issues in the world that are like also grabbing their attention. Whereas when you start to talk about the Sustainable Development Goals and get to know what their interests are and their own like drive and causes that they want to fight for, then you can kind of find that actually the goals fit into what they want, and then through the goals you start to talk about sustainability and link it that way instead. So we haven't changed what we focus on, we've just changed how we brand it to the students.
That's really interesting. I think many of us that will resonate with many of us. And what Katrina was saying there, that actually there's a lot of stuff going on already, but it's not always linked or connected.
Yeah, exactly.
And the goals are so powerful, aren't they, Katrina, to actually suddenly bring a lot of social and environmental elements together, and actually building on what's already happening. And it's not new, but it can actually become a much more coherent, powerful movement then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Katrina?
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
It was really just observation that you're saying that the goals are a powerful glue or connector between a lot of initiatives that the students are already doing, and that's actually quite powerful. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, for example, when we first started talking about the Sustainable Development Goals as a coherent thing that SU is working towards, it was a few years ago, suddenly, for example, the Irish Students' Union and the Danish Students' Union realized that they're doing the exact same things. They could be helping each other so much, but they just weren't thinking about the work that they were doing, for example, looking at access to education as a sustainability sort of underpinning thing. That there could be so much more that we could be helping each other with in solidarity. But it just didn't come to their mind, and it's incredible to see various student representatives sort of eyes opening and shining up, oh my God, I'm already doing this. Why wasn't I using these resources and looking at those pages and contacting these people?
Excellent. Okay, any questions from anyone? And Rosie, I'll leave you to pick up the chat ones.
Brilliant, thank you. I will read some of the comments I've got here. So David Chapman has asked, what exactly is involved in the glitter event? I think it's the question we're all thinking.
Basically, in a nutshell, it's kind of, we set up a gazebo with tables, and then we have all the different types of glitter in little pots, and then students come along and we ask them whereabouts they want their glitter. So sometimes it could be here or like under there or basically wherever. And then using Vaseline, in case anyone is interested in that as well, that's how you get the glitter to stick. So yeah, basically.
Oh, that's great. So I've got a comment/question here from Mark Drain. Often some of our approaches have to be done on a shoestring, but UK universities are investing about $4 billion per year on campus developments, according to HESA. Are many people taking the opportunity to engage with these students, researchers and staff who use these spaces and leverage these investments work to support the SDGs and wellbeing?
Well, I think that's definitely a challenging, position.
It's a hard question.
It's not really a question. It's well, yeah, what a missed opportunity, Mark. Absolutely.
Can I? Hi, this is Georgie Goff from UE. Can I comment on that particular question, Ian?
Please, of course, yes. Anyone can.
I mean, I think from just speaking from UE's perspective, certainly our more recent major campus developments, and we've got another one literally about to start, which is a new engineering building. And the answer is yes, but it's been done in the interests of, in the case of the engineering building, attracting BREEAM status or other relevant sustainable building accreditations, I guess, and those tend to require quite a detailed consultation of all potential users and stakeholders in those buildings. So that is being done, and where students have been consulted, the pressure from the students' union to the university has been critical in ensuring that the student voice is at the table of those discussions. So I think we're not alone in involving stakeholders in discussions about use of space. And one of the things that I'm keep pushing, which is finally gaining a bit of traction, not just because of my activities, but students as well, is consideration of our outdoor space, because I think across the UK HE sector, there is relatively poor consideration of use of outdoor space within universities. So yeah, I'd be interested to hear case studies from any others who do have good examples of how outdoor space can be used and how to get those conversations happening productively.
Yeah, sorry to put in. We've recently had a new development on our campus, which is it's a big kind of stone square in the middle of campus, which is actually what our Creating an Edible Campus is on. Like, we've got some outdoor furniture and we've incorporated some outdoor planters. So we're getting the students and staff to plant the herbs and then use them for their own cooking or whatever they want to use them for. And also we're getting staff to kind of keep the upkeep of the herbs. So that's one way we're trying to get engagement with our outdoor spaces. And we also have a new student project, which we had just a big lawn sort of thing with some trees. And he wanted to make a forest garden. So at the moment he's put like bark mulch down for paths and is going to build up this forest garden, which is like its own ecosystem in itself, with lots of different layers, and it can provide edible foods as well. So they're just a couple of examples of what's happening at our university.
And I think, if I can jump in, I think your living lab role is really powerful here, because the SDGs are helping us make connections between so many different agendas, and a living lab, if you've got cross university students from different disciplines actually collaborating, bringing social sciences, humanities, whatever, together to solve, campus problems or community problems, is a really powerful, getting people out of their silos and using the site in a different way, but actually coming at it from very, very rich, innovative, approaches.
When I've been meeting with stakeholders about living labs, I've actually been taking the SDGs with me to show them what sustainability can be, and it's helped build more connections, and it's been really useful.
Great. Rosie.
I've got Paul here. He's going to ask a question. I'm just going to unmute him.
Hi guys. So it's Paul here down in Plymouth. So inspiring to hear all three presentations, to be honest. But I guess the thing that I'm just trying to keep exploring and finding ways to tackle is that we've got examples of students leading stuff by themselves and doing some amazing change. And then we've got examples of staff trying to put things into their curriculum. And I guess what I'm really keen to be trying to find ways to do is to get staff and students to work as partners and to be doing things in a co-creating, collaborative way. And there are just so many barriers to getting staff to have time to do that, and students to feel that they've got equal power in that process. And I just was interested in particularly with the Leicester guys, you've got roles that are about trying to get staff and students to work on research projects together. And I just wondered how you were finding it going. Were there quite a few barriers to getting staff and students to co-create and collaborate together? Or were you finding that it was just a clear pathway of having staff and students ready to do it?
No, it is quite hard to get both together. It's kind of you either go to one and find out what they want to do and then connect them with students or other staff. It's hard to find them both together at the same time. So it is quite hard, but the way I'm trying to do it is I'm trying to get and build up a network, find out what's happening everywhere using the SDGs, and hopefully as people come up with project ideas, it'll be easier to link them all together.
I think also from looking at it from the student perspective, students don't really know how much power they have at a university.
Right.
They actually have so many ideas, and there are lots of people that are actually probably willing to help. It's just the students don't know they can ask for it. So we have a student sustainability working group where societies come together and can talk about what they want to do on campus, and then it's also jointly run by myself representing the social impact team, but also one of our SAB officers representing the student union. So that's like another way in for students to actually, one, find out what they can achieve on campus and what is possible, and then to actually us help make that possible. But I think we're finding that there has to be a facilitator. It still is quite difficult for students to just go to the lectures and ask.
Yeah.
Like, the facilitators are needed, and that is definitely what our roles are also about.
Fantastic. That's really encouraging, and I think spot on about that facilitation role. There's quite an art, isn't there, to sort of do lots of bridge building. So respect to all you guys. Keep going.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to come in on that? They're very welcome. And while you think, I mean, Leicester, your new Vice Chancellor was one of the early signatories of the Accord. So do you feel there's a permissive spirit in the university that's starting to sort of, encourage and give permission to academics, campus people, student unions?
Yeah, definitely. We like to think so. I mean, with the Forest Garden, that was on an area of land which is known as the Vice Chancellor's lawn. So I'd probably say a couple of years ago that never would have happened. It would have just been an absolute no-go area. Whereas the foundations have been laid, the Forest Garden is happening on that lawn. So already it's definitely changing. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like they're starting to open up a bit more to what we're saying to them. So moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to come in?
I think what was said, that students don't know how much power they have is true, either on a local or a national level. I think one thing is for the university itself to find ways to sort of put students and teachers together, trying to get them to do the same project. For example, interdisciplinary projects or writing multiple theses would be a gateway to that. But I think more than anything, we need a way to talk about the good practices and the good examples we have. Because, as I said, just talking to people about the SDGs and the opportunities, I think it's the same way with working together between students and teachers or lecturers. Once you have those good practices and you start talking about them, students, lecturers start seeing how they could in fact work together. They start getting inspiration and actually do it, because the will is there. I think it's just seeing the opportunity to get started that's holding some people back.
Thanks, Katrina. I'm going to pick up on Georgie's chat question, and then maybe Rosie, if you pick up on Rachel's. Yeah. So Georgie asked if the speakers have any observations on the challenge of ensuring that students do see that actions for the goals should consider all the goals simultaneously. So maybe Rachel, give that one to you, because it was interesting in your questions on prioritizing or which is the most important goals. What came out, I would challenge that the least important was partnerships. I actually think that's where Living Labs comes in, so we need to be finding new relationships. But Rachel, any thoughts on should we be considering all of the goals simultaneously?
Yeah, I guess to some extent that's a bit of a mean question, asking people to prioritise those issues. It's kind of hard to compare one against the other, and also they're also interrelated as well. And I guess one thing, I don't know if you're aware of already, but sometimes it might just be like something simple about how the goals are presented. So in the branding, they're all in their individual boxes just in a row, whereas I've seen other models, and I think one is known as the wedding cake model, which organizes the goals into tiers instead, and it kind of just rearranges them into more of like a system. I mean, there's been some critique of that model because it puts the one of related to economic growth at the top as the married couple. But yeah, even in something kind of simple like that, in terms of just how the goals are presented visually, might help students and other people engaging with the goals see their connectivity more, rather than just the standard arrangement of them as individual boxes.
Right, thanks. Anyone else want to come in on that one?
Should we go on over to Rachel's question here? So Rachel Lander, she has said, I've delivered a module on sustainable business for the first time this year to 550 students. There is a lot of interest, but I'd really like to link more directly to other student university initiatives. Has anyone got examples of work connecting academic and student/wider university initiatives? I do the obvious, e.g. invite the environmental officer to speak to students, but getting them more involved needs a real joined up approach.
To do with my living labs, a marketing academic approached me, interested in changing one of her modules. She kind of it's like research methods in marketing or something, and normally she goes to like an outside case, but in this time she looked internally into university and used our team. So we gave, there were master marketing students, I think there was 120 of them, and each had to do a group project about the business case that we gave, which is about recycling, about how students perceive cycling and are they engaging it in the right way. So we pitched this project to them, and they went off in groups and kind of did their research. And one part of it was they presented back to us how they would do the methods and that, and we were able to judge and we picked the winning one. And then they're actually doing a report which is giving us back their findings on what they found, and hopefully give us recommendations which we can then implement in our university, and hopefully we should be getting that by the end of the month, so I'm looking forward to reading them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Perhaps a bit of a sort of example from my home university. Right as I was leaving the university decided to this new project. They called it the interdisciplinary project. It was a mandatory part of everyone's curriculum. Everyone from bachelor's to master's during their degree had to do one interdisciplinary project, and this linked up sort of proposals by either the students or the lecturers or the staff or whoever, and the staff, lecturers and students who wanted to work on this together. The students got credit for that. For the staff, it was just part of their work that they were sort of expected to do. It was sort of brought in with this new curriculums. Of course, the lecturers also had the role of the facilitators in there, and that became quite a few projects that actually did have either intentionally or unintentionally these are sustainable development goals at the heart of it. For example, there was in fact the project about building a garden at the inner court of my university as well. It didn't quite work out as well because it's all concrete, but the sort of intention was there, and look at it as something that should be facilitated by the university for every student perhaps would be a start, though it might be a bit radical.
That's really good, and Georgie's added a bit of context there. I mean, what I think we'll finish in a moment, but what I would say is, if you're not already linked, and your university has an Enactus, ENACTUS group, have a look at them. They're utterly astounding, because there's some really interesting relationships being built between the academics and the student body Enactus on their site, or with, and this is the agenda EAUC are working on, with sustainability leaders actually advising them. And Enactus is a student-led is social enterprise, creating machine. They're often solving all sorts of local waste problems or aging problems or literacy problems, international problems. Really, really interesting opportunities there for, to address this point. Any final comments from anyone, or I'll pass back to Rosie to finish.
No. Okay, so yes, so I'm going to wrap up. So that's the end of today's webinar. A big thank you to Rachel, Charlotte, Hannah and Katrina, and obviously Ian as well for chairing, for all of your insight. I think it's really useful.